Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. Can't believe I can't say that by now. It's your host, Kim Davis. And as always, thank you for being a part of the show. Today is Tuesday, June the 18th. We are rocking and rolling as we move through 2024. Lots of great stuff to get to on today's show. Got some championship talk, some Astros moves, um, Houston Rockets getting ready for the NBA draft, as is everybody else in the NBA. But before I get started today, I wanted to share some unfortunate, sad news. One of our longtime guests and supporters, I called him our Chalk Talk legal expert. You probably, if you follow the show, you may have seen him on the show sometimes, and he was always listening and giving feedback. And that's Charles Lamar Drayton. And I am sad to announce that unfortunately he transitioned a few days ago. It was shocking to everybody who knew and loved him. And so I just wanted to start the show by just taking a moment to honor him. Here's a picture of him. Um, in case you, let me show it. So this is a photo of Charles Lamar Drayton. He's an attorney, but more than that, he's a father. He was a community advocate. He supported so many people. I've never met anyone who didn't have kind things to say about him. And when I talked about how much he was supportive of me and encouraging of me, well, come to find out, I'm not so special. That's how he was with everybody. So sending condolences, love and light to his family, his wife, his daughter, who he often talked about. I believe she's a volleyball player. He just, was a loving and a kind man. His family will miss him. We as friends and a community will miss him. And I just wanted to take a minute to just kind of, honor him for just being an amazing person. And not just because he was a part of the show, but I'm sharing it here because he was. So rest in power, Charles Lamar Drayton. You will be missed. And your love and light definitely touched a lot of us. So I just wanted to share that as we start today's show, because we get started talking about all the other things, and I did not want to forget or let too much time pass and not share about Charles Lamar Drayton. So if you just send a prayer, say a kind word for his family and his friends. Whenever somebody transitions, whether it was expected or not, it's difficult. But especially when it's shocking, and it's shocking because it's sudden. And so I just wanted to honor him because he has always honored so many of us. Well, there are some things also happening in the world of sports. There is a new NBA champion. It is the Boston Celtics. They defeated the Dallas Mavericks 4-1. Dallas blew them out in game 4. People thought, oh, well, will the Mavericks make a turn? But last night was game 5 in Boston at the Garden, and the Celtics handled business. They did what they've been doing the entire season. They were the team they've been really all year. They had, I think they were 16-3 in the playoffs. So, it wasn't like they struggled much, and they always made a way back. And some of the cool things about this Boston story of this year, Jalen Brown was the MVP last night. But Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, that duo, had gotten a lot of criticism. Like, can they get it done? Are the two of them able to do it together? Is one more important than the other? All of these narratives over the past several years. And this team played like a team. They played great defense. Their coach is probably the youngest in the NBA at 34 years old. If you remember, he took over 2 seasons ago. He's faced some criticism. There are many who said, man, if Ime Udoka was coaching that team, they would have won the championship by now. And so Joe Mazzulla stayed the course. They made some moves in the offseason, brought in Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, which were huge difference makers. Many people thought, like, how can they move on from Marcus Smart? But this team got it done, and they got it done as a team. And last night, when Jalen Brown hoisted the MVP trophy, and Lisa Salter, who did the interview, I laughed because the owner called her Michelle. But anyway, people make mistakes. It was a busy night. Ask, the great questions. She's a great journalist. about how he felt in the moment, and he started with, this is a team thing. He talked about his team, and he said his partner in crime, Jason Tatum, his brother, they did it together. So, that's who Jalen Brown has always been. Not a lot of flash and fanfare, but real solid. And his defense last night, if you didn't watch that game, was a masterclass on how he defended Luka Doncic. Right, Luka, may not have been totally healthy, but like Luka said, he played. If you're out there, you got to play. But the way Jalen Brown defended him, I mean, not a whole lot of people pick you up 94 feet. That's the length of a court. And so the entire court, he was on him defensively. And oh yeah, by the way, he also showed up offensively as well. Jason Tatum had big numbers, and so some may argue about who should have been the MVP. I think it could have gone either way, but I thought Jalen Brown was definitely deserving. I'm good with it being Jalen Brown. I wanted to pull up, which I didn't pull up initially, the numbers from last night. The final was 106-88. And Jason Tatum finished with 31 points. He was 1 of 7 from 3, so he struggled there, but he had 11 assists and 8 rebounds. Jalen Brown had 21 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. And, the things that don't show up on the box scores, which you often hear me talk about, especially defensively, those things really made a huge difference. Porzingis off the bench had 5 points in 16 minutes. Remember, he went out. He did not play in Game 4. He was injured, and so they were not sure if he would be able to play in Game 5. But of course, he said there's no way he wouldn't be a part of Game 5. And so the Mavericks struggled. Kyrie Irving did not have his finest outing. He was 5 of 16 from the field. He only had 15 points. He did have 9 assists and 3 rebounds. Luka finished with 28 points and 12 rebounds, and he turned it over 7 times. So off the bench, Green had 14 points, and they couldn't get it done. And there's criticism about, Kyrie didn't look locked in. And listen, Boston was a better team. I thought it would be a better series. I also knew before the series started, I said, if Porzingis will have a big impact, which when he played, he did. But even when he didn't play, the duo of Tatum and Brown, and then of course what Drew Holiday brought, it was enough. It was more than enough, and they won it handily. And now the Celtics single-handedly have won the most NBA championships in the history of the league. Right? They have 18. There was a tie with the Celtics and the Lakers at 17 championships each going into this season. And so now the Celtics have broken the tie with 18. So LeBron, you're on the clock, right? You're on the clock. Of course, the Celtics are the favorite right now today to repeat and win next year. But that was the same thing that was said last year about the Denver Nuggets. While I think the Celtics obviously should be in the conversation, you never know what happens in the off season in the summer and what teams emerge and do whatever they're going to do next year. But right now, they are the NBA champions. So congratulations to them. Drew Holiday had 15 points. He shot 50% from the field. He had 11 rebounds and 4 assists. And the other thing, what he does in terms of just away from the ball, just handling it defensively, what he's brought to this Celtics team has been pretty amazing. So congratulations to the Boston Celtics. There's an assistant coach on the Boston Celtics by the name of Sam Cassell. And I got a chance to cover Sam Cassell when he was a rookie. I covered him with the Houston Rockets. I saw him win 2 championships with the Rockets. He's also won now his second as a coach. He's an assistant coach on Joe Mazzulla's staff for the Boston Celtics. His name comes up from time to time when there's an NBA head coaching opening, but he never gets the job. Like his name came up with the latest opening in Los Angeles, but the name that everyone's talking about since Hurley turned it down is JJ Redick. It was JJ Redick initially, and then uh, Bobby Hurley. I mean Hurley um, rose as a candidate that the Lakers apparently really wanted. He went out, met with them, and decided, he's going to stay in college at UConn. So JJ Redick is thought of as kind of a favorite. Now, taking nothing from JJ, I mean, he's on the a lead analyst on the NBA on the ABC broadcast for NBA games. He was on the telecast last night. He is good friends with LeBron. They have a podcast together, and he's I think coached AAU basketball. Now, listen, there have been other first-year coaches in the NBA, but I would be remiss if I did not say I think it's ridiculous that Sam Cassell doesn't get a shot. And not just mention his name. I mean, get a shot. He's a champion. He now has 4 rings. He has rings as a player, 2 as a player, and 2 as a coach. I mean, Sam Cassell deserves a shot at being a head coach. He's put in the work. He's done it as player, as coach. You've never heard any Sam Cassell scandals. He's done it the right way. He works hard. He's smart. He knows defense for sure. Anyway, I needed to say that. I don't know what the Lakers are going to do. I guess they'll talk to JJ Redick and maybe they'll hire him because they've been, anyway. You need to look at Sam Cassell. If you're looking for a head coach in the NBA, I need somebody to explain to me why Sam Cassell is not a viable candidate, why he can't get one of these jobs. So if you're not recycling a coach who's had a gazillion jobs, then you're bringing in somebody who doesn't have any coaching experience. I mean, come on. And I don't have any problem with JJ Redick. I don't know him personally. He seems like a nice enough guy. He obviously is smart. He knows basketball. He's probably got a pretty good basketball IQ. But Sam Cassell's been coaching. He's done the work. He's there. Anyway, I won't spend a whole show talking about that, but I did want to mention that as well. The NBA draft is next week on June the 26th. And the Houston Rockets have the 3rd overall pick, right? They have the 3rd overall pick in the draft. I was on Channel 11 this past weekend, and we were talking about that pick, right? And I don't know what the Rockets are going to do. Do they trade back? And, do they stay at that spot? You get another young player. The player that most people are talking about is Reed Shepherd. And I wanted to pull up something in a moment that I saw. We talked about, is Shepherd is that too high I've got to pull up my notes. So is 3 too high for him? And I don't know that it's too high. I just don't know that he's the best fit for the Rockets. Okay. Let's see here. So, Atlanta Hawks have the 1st pick, and the Washington Wizards have the 2nd pick, right? They're probably not going to move. They need those picks. Reed Shepherd is projected to come to Houston at 3. He's a 19-year-old freshman out of Kentucky. And, he's a shooter, right? He can shoot the ball. He's a little undersized for the 2, so he's a little more limited off the dribble. And he said that Amen Thompson would be the perfect backcourt partner with him. But remember, they've got Fred VanVleet. So are you going to move on from one of your veterans or not? I don't see them doing that. But if you bring in Shepherd, what is he? He has elite shooting and passing, and he's been praised by scouts for how he interviewed at the combine. He feels like the perfect fit for Thompson, but are there enough minutes for him? I mean, let's think about it. This Houston Rockets rotation, it's kind of set, right? Your first 5, so you have Jalen Green, you have Fred VanVleet, got Dylan Brooks, got Jabari Smith, and you've got Alperen Şengün. That's probably going to be your starting five. And then coming in, you've got, in no particular order, you've got Adams, a big guy who's coming over from Memphis, who was hurt, that they expect to be ready for camp. You've got Amen Thompson. You've got Tari Eason, who should be healthy and ready to go. You also have Cam. You got Cam Whitmire. I mean, where are you going to play all the people? Now, there's some people that you might move, but in terms of getting minutes, a young player needs to come in and get some minutes. If you're going to do something with the number 3 pick, it'll be interesting, right? And it's another really young player on this roster. Now, we heard when we talked with general manager Rafael Stone at the end of the season, he said they weren't trying to go out and get another big superstar. He feels good about his team. Not that he's not always looking for ways to improve it, but I'll be really curious to see, one, if they stay at 3 or if they try to trade back. A player that I think is kind of interesting, and his name is Stefan Castle. He played at UConn. He's a 6'6". He's 6'6", 210 pounds, and he's really good defensively, right? He handles the ball, passes, has really good strength positionally. They talk about his wingspan, which is important. He's a strong fit when you have good shot makers. Now, he's not, in Shepherd, you're talking about a guy who's an elite shooter, and the Rockets could use an elite shooter. That's not what you get in Castle. But the reason that I think he's kind of interesting, and I also heard Kelly Iko talk about this as well. And so, if you think about the kind of players that Ime Udoka likes, the Rockets coach, I mean, he likes veteran guys who have a little experience. He wants you to be gritty. He likes you to be a two-way player. That is Castle, So he fits that prototype a bit. I don't know. I don't know. Do you trade back to get him? Because I don't know. Do you take him at 6? Do you move back a couple spots? Do you try to say, we'll move back out of 3, drop down, get some more assets? I don't know what the answer is, right? But I just think it should be interesting. We'll know, of course, in about a week. Not that, like I said, Reed Shepherd is at 3 is pretty much what most people, the experts and the pundits, they think he'll go there. And, he will. Apparently the pick is not really for sale, in terms of, I mentioned the Rockets making a move. But my concern is that there's not a lot of room on the Rockets roster for another young project, especially because next season they got to be in the playoffs next year, right? I don't think they're at the championship level yet, but they've got to be in postseason. And so a project player is kind of tough because you've got a few of those. They made great progress last year to get in a conversation about being a playoff team. But we'll see. So the draft is next week. And, if the Rockets stick, if they can get him in the rotation and get him some minutes. But here's the other thing. At 3, that player needs to be somebody who can be on the floor late in the game. You need somebody that you can trust last 5 minutes of the game that can help you win a game. And is that Shepherd? I don't know. Is it Castle? Is it somebody else? But I think as they're looking at what that pick should be, who that pick should be, who that player should be, those are some of the things that are certain. Certainly will come into the conversation. So we'll see what happens. NBA draft is next week. And we'll see if by then the Lakers have hired a coach and if Sam Cassell is going to get a job. We'll see all of those things. I mean, certainly the Lakers will have a coach before the draft, right? Yeah, not my problem. But I just think all of those things are really interesting narratives about what's happening in the NBA. In baseball, the Houston Astros made big news last Friday when they officially released veteran first baseman, former All-Star player, José Abreu. Many fans were celebrating it. Some people in the media were celebrating. I never celebrate anybody like losing their job, although he's good. I mean, from a financial standpoint, because his money's guaranteed. I think they owe him another $30 million. But it was time. He just wasn't the guy that they thought they got when they got him 2 years ago. Now, last year at the end of the season, he did come in and, after being injured, that late stretch, he was, you didn't see a lot of home runs, but he had a lot. He gave you some offensive production. You got RBIs. He was able to get on base, and driving in runs is the name of the game. He never really got back to that. He had 2 home runs this season, but they were just kind of one-offs, right? He went down to the farm system. He went to West Palm and worked on his swing. And, I saw an interview with Jeff Bagwell who talked about how, he looked better in terms of his timing. But when he came back up, he just couldn't seem to put it all together. And they finally made the move and decided to move away from Abreu. So they've had Mauricio Dubon play at first, who is an amazing utility player. Of course, they've used John Singleton. And it's just, not only was he not providing anything in terms of in the lineup, he made a few errors, and you're just wondering if his time had come. He's 37 years old. He had a really good career, and it's a shame that it had to end this way. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody won't pick him up, right? To come off the bench or be a DH, or I don't know about DH because he hasn't been hitting very well, but it doesn't mean his career is over. But it looks like his career as the Houston Astro is over, and the Astros are now. They've won. They're 2-1 since that move. They won on Friday, were blown out on Saturday in a game that they had some pitching issues, right? Verlander was a late scratch, and so they had to bring in Arendetti, and they got blown out. Was it 13-5 was the final? It was way too much to not enough. And then they did win on Sunday behind Ronel Blanco, who quietly is having a really good season. That one little snafu he had when he got suspended for the rosin or the sticky substance in his glove. But he has been their best pitcher, quite frankly. He's a guy you trust to go out and give you solid innings, and he has done that consistently. The Astros right now are 33-39 is the record, so there's 6 games under 500. It's not too much to make up, but they've got to start turning the corner, right? They've got to start winning series. They won the series against the Tigers. They're on the road tonight in Chicago. They play the White Sox tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday before coming back home over the weekend to start a series with the Orioles. So they've got to start winning some series, but they are 5-5 in their last 10 games, and they're currently 9 games behind Seattle. The Rangers are also 9 games, so they're tied with Seattle. Each are 9 games back. Of course, the Rangers and Astros are both 9 games back. The Rangers have only won 3 of their last 10. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. So the Astros have some opportunity. And one of the things I said when we were on the show on Sports Extra over the weekend, I think there's one of the websites that's giving the Astros a 31% chance of making the playoffs. And the question was, is that too high or too low? And so I said, it's too low, right? I mean, I don't give them a 60% chance, but they've at least got a 35 or 40% chance, right? I mean, that's pretty low as we are in June with this team. If they can get healthy pitching, and that's a big if. They've got to figure out if they're going to make any moves before the trade deadline. Do you do anything? Are you going to keep Presley, or do you move Presley? Right? I don't think he's been happy not being the definitive closer since they went out and brought in Josh Hader. Hader is finally kind of getting into his groove, but Presley just seems kind of broken. So maybe that's something you do, that you move Presley. Ryan Presley has just not, he didn't want to not be the closer. That wasn't his choice. He said, oh, I will accept it. But it's been a challenge for him, and it's looked like it on the field. He's had some moments that have been good, but you can tell he's not in his happy place right now. So do they make a move there? Fromber, I think, needs to, if Fromber gets in his head and he goes early and he's not able to pull it back together like he was a couple years ago, like he was maybe even last year. So Fromber, who has the stuff to do it, but he's just got to not get in his head, right? That's a challenge. And so I remember him telling us that he had worked with a sports psychologist or a sports therapist or something. He said a therapist. I said sports therapist. I don't know. But he talked about how that helped him really manage his emotions. I don't know if he's still working with the person, if it's a new person, if he stopped. I think they should reconsider. Don't consider it. Go do that again. Because when he was able to manage his emotions, he was able to be a much more consistent pitcher, right? And so they need that out of him. Verlander has not quite been healthy. They hope that maybe he can play on Friday, start Thursday against Chicago, maybe Friday. He has a neck issue, so we'll see about that. Luis Garcia is trying to make his way back. Who knows about Lance McCullers? Christian Javier went to IL. I mean, they've had a lot of challenges in terms of pitching. And then sometimes their lineup has been, up and down. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I still think it's too soon to write them off. And I think if they can turn the corner, it would be great. Joe Espada is having a rookie season as a manager, and we'll see if he's up to it. People can like you, and they all like him a lot, but they've got to really buy into what you're saying and respect you. And I don't know that they don't. I'm just saying those are the things that are really, really important. So we'll see what happens with the Astros. They had an off day yesterday. They're back in action tonight. As I mentioned, the Astros, I told you about a young lady, Jordan Stapleton, who is their dietitian. And so I will post a link in the chat to the story that I wrote on her. And I've played some clips on the show before. And I just think it's a cool story, not because I wrote it. I mean, I did write it, but it's just a cool story about her. She's 27 years old. She is a young African-American woman. There are 2 African-American women dietitians in Major League Baseball. Every team has to have one. The other one is a young lady named Brittany, who works for the Cubs. And Jordan talks about the story really talks about how she got into being a dietitian and really her journey and path to get to here and what she does every day. And she does a lot. So I thought it was a really interesting piece, if I, do say so myself. And I'm going to find that link and put it in the chat so that you guys can check it out, if you will. I'd love for you to check it out and share it. Where is the story? Okay, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to post it in the chat. So you can take a look at the story there when you get a chance. I posted it in the comments, and it's a story that was on LinkedIn, but you can check it out. So there's that. All right, I'm going to hop over to talk about football for a minute because, listen, this is Texas, and it's always football season. The Houston Texans are, I don't want to say taking a break because they're probably taking a slight break, but still working, right? Because they've got in about a month, it'll be training camp. In fact, the Texans released today that their training camp will open July the 18th. That's a little earlier than they usually open. They usually open probably about a week later than that. But remember, this year they're playing in a Hall of Fame game. So they've got to move everything up. So training camp will open on July 18th. And I believe that there are 8 dates that are open for fans. Those are free, but you do have to have a ticket. So if you are interested in that, you should go online and look early to see if you can get in the mix. So, of course, recently there was mini camp, mandatory mini camp for a couple days, the first week of June, and everybody was accounted for and present. We did not see Laramie Tunzel and Titus Howard um, doing much work. Remember, they're recovering from some off-season injuries, or some injuries from last season, and so they've been rehabbing. So they're making their way back. But here was head coach D'Amico Ryans talking about what he would like to see um, from the players. Like, what did he tell? I asked him, what did you tell the players? What do you want them to do between now and camp? Because it was about a month, not quite a month and a half, but maybe about 5 weeks. So this is head coach D'Amico Ryans on what he would like to see. What the message was he gave the players as they headed out in between time.
Yeah, my biggest message for guys is don't lose what you've gained over the past 9 weeks. All right, guys, you're in great shape. We've been practicing football. Like, don't just go away and do nothing and think you're going to pick it back up, right, a week before, 2 weeks before a training camp. When you leave, you have to continue to train, continue to build on the gains that you've made. I want guys to stay on it. So you're a step ahead when you come back to training camp. You're not coming back to training camp and trying to use camp to get in shape. If you have to use camp to get in shape, then it's going to be a long camp for you, and that's when you're susceptible to injury, right? So my main thing is just stay on it. You're at a great point with your bodies, like stay on it and come back in the best shape of your life.
So that was D'Amico Ryans telling him, listen, you're off, but you're not really off, right? You can't get in shape at camp. It makes a difference. One, you could be susceptible to injury, and I'll say the other part. Where do you fit with this team? And if you come back with this team that's got a lot of weapons, you better come back with, at the very least, being in shape, but building on what they've been doing during the off season. So that was D'Amico Ryans. We also heard from CJ Stroud last week, and he talked about how the question was asked about him if he is more comfortable being in year two as he approaches the offseason, as he's approached this offseason and getting ready for minicamp. Here is CJ talking about being more comfortable in year two.
Really, I feel like I'm running the show, and I've got a lot more responsibilities from Slow and from D'Amico and from Gerard, Bill, and really our whole offensive staff. And, I'm the captain of the ship, and I got to run it the right way. And I feel like I've, stepped into that role of just, not only holding guys accountable, but also, holding myself accountable to those moments. Like, I don't let anything slide, because that's the point of winning and losing. So I think from last year to this year, I've gotten a lot better with controlling my emotions, controlling my ball placement, knowing what's NFL open, knowing my footwork better. Just really every little thing I've taken a step. And then on the other side of the ball, just everything slowed down, seeing coverage. D'Amico does a good job of blitzing me and, working on their different coverages, their different looks. So start too high, go to one, go back to two, motion like his man, go to cover two, all that stuff to keep me true and honest. And, I think I've tried to do my best with my off-season study to, be better. And I feel like I've done that and had a good OTA so far. So got to finish with vet mini camp. But it's been definitely a big transition of just more comfortability from last year to this year.
So that was CJ Stroud. Today he had a football camp, and I'm going to share some video with you of him at a camp. And there's some who think, oh man, has he been too busy this offseason? I think we just know what all he has going on. And this is.
Just parents, thank you for bringing y'all kids out. Kids, thank you for coming. These type of camps as a kid, made me a better player to get where I'm at now. First and foremost, man, I just give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. To have this opportunity, and for me, he's my everything, and I encourage everybody out here, to step into that place and lean into your faith. And on top of that hard work, that comes out to just success. And, I hope everybody out here learns something, kids and parents. I'm very excited to have my second annual camp in Houston. And, this will be years and years and years. So, I can't wait to see all you kids grow up and be great men and women in our communities, because that means a lot. So have fun today, ask questions, learn, and let's have some fun, y'all. Let's Texas.
Okay, that was CJ Stroud earlier today at his football camp here in Houston. And so that's what he's doing. And he also took some time to answer a few questions about what he hopes the kids do and get from this camp. Let me share some of that with you as well.
The message is most of the things, but I mean, it starts with God, then also, listen to your parents, and I think that's a recipe for success. That's what I did as a kid, and that's what, I always lay back on as my foundation. So that's what what I want to give is, how to set a foundation, set on rocks, and then go from there.
You got kids saying, CJ, you're teaching them different lessons and stuff like that. What's your favorite part about spending time with kids?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, it's eye-opening to me. I honestly, like, you guys know me. I'm not really like full of myself much. Like I think I'm okay, I guess. But it's just amazing to be able to hear kids know who you are. I really, I used to dream of stuff like this, but it's just crazy to see, just a city come out, support me and want to be around me. That's just a blessing in its own right. So I'm just really just inspired, and I want to keep being great for that reason right there.
Yeah, CJ, how?
So that was CJ Stroud earlier today at his football camp. And so, like he said, we do, you guys know me, and that's who he is. That's who he has been since I've covered him from when he was drafted last year. I don't know any other person. And so when people say, well, who do you think is going to be in year two? I think he's going to be the guy that he was in year one, but just a little more mature. We will see. And I think he continues to show up the way that he has shown up. And like he said, he's more confident, he's more comfortable because he is in year two. He's stepping more into the role more as a leader. But I just think that the ceiling is high still for CJ Stroud, although the road's going to be tougher this year. I mean, there's no question about it for CJ and the entire Texans team. So we shall see. One of the new additions to this team, of course, was a big trade made this offseason to bring in wide receiver Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. And he, there are many who say, he's a diva, he's this or that. I can't speak to that. I don't know that about Stephon Diggs, right? I've only really been around him at minicamp, and that was not even a whole lot. So, I'll get to be around him more at training camp and then as we get into the season. So people have asked me, well, what do you think? I think we just have to wait and see. We know he can play. So here's Diggs talking about some of that criticism. Here's how he responds to that.
Well, personally, I don't take things personal from people I don't know personally. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you garnish your opinion from what you hear about somebody, it's not different if you know them on a personal level. Not too many people know me on a personal level. I mean, I don't particularly share a lot of my thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I keep work. You know what I'm saying? I try not to dive into, like, how I feel about certain things or, like, you know what I'm saying, people's opinions. I've been in the league, about to go on my 10th year. I've obviously put in a lot of work to get to where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Respect level is always there. You know what I'm saying? Who I am as a player. They know who I am. I'm a true competitor. I love to win. You know what I'm saying? I love getting better and who I am as a person. You know what I'm saying? But this is a job at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? We build a family environment with your team. Those guys will know me personally. That's why I earn the respect of them first, along with my coaches. But I try not to take things personal from people I don't know on a personal level. You know what I'm saying? Rule of thumb.
That's Stephon Diggs. Makes sense to me. How do you take things personally from somebody that you don't know personally, right? He was also asked about if he feels like he's always chasing the Super Bowl, which I thought was an interesting question, but his answer, here, take a listen.
I feel like I've been chasing the Super Bowl since I got in the league. So, I mean, to say like, you get to one specific place and say, this is where I want to try to win it, but this is where I'm at right now. You know what I'm saying? I obviously believe in this team. I believe in the quarterback. Those are, unspoken things that we all can assume. But for me, chasing the ring isn't like I came here to chase it. I came here to win. You know what I'm saying? That starts with a game one and moving forward. Of course you want a ring. And it sounds good to be like you want a Super Bowl and you want a ring, but It takes a lot of effort and a lot of consistency for me. I take it in one day at a time. It starts in practice, it starts in the walkthrough, it starts in the meeting room. So for me, winning is always in the forefront of my brain with everything that I do. You know what I'm saying? But it's one thing at a time rather than just jumping the gun. I don't put the carriage before the horse.
That's Stephon Diggs. He also had really cool things to say about Josh Allen, gave him credit for just, being a great quarterback, and talked about the success they had together. And, had nothing but kind things to say about him. So, we'll see. What we know is this is one of the best receiving rooms in the league, right? You got Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and then you've got some young guys. You got, Xavier Hutchinson, who D'Amico talked about, has had a good offseason and OTAs and minicamp. John Mechie III, who has been battling back from, of course, he was injured when he first got out of college from Alabama and came here, and then he had to overcome leukemia. And so this is probably the first off season that he's been able to be healthy and have a full off season. We heard CJ talk about how great Mechie has looked this off season. And, then there are other guys the young guys that have come in and tight end side, there's Dalton Schultz, right? Who is re-signed and back with this team. Here is Tank Dell. I mentioned Tank Dell, who was a fan favorite last year, got injured late during the season, broke his leg, had surgery, and was on the sidelines. It was tough for him and the team because he's such a integral part of their team family, right? Not even just what he does on the field, but who he is and his energy in that locker room. And then, of course, he had an incident in Florida around the draft where he was at a party. He had gone there, was invited by a promoter. The two young guys started shooting, and he had the crossfire. So he talked about that. He talked about that shooting incident. Well, let's start with that.
Definitely, I don't want to keep reliving the experience. It definitely changed my perspective of things, like, hanging around, like just not even hanging around, but just being around the right group of guys and stuff like that, or being in the right situations. But, just wrong place, wrong time. So just got to live with it. I'm blessed, God blessed me to get out of that situation healthy. I was only down for like a week without just like working out. But after that, I got right back to work and I'm feeling good.
So that was Tank. He started the press conference. I wanted to start with that. And I think it's fair. He said, I don't want to keep reliving it. He did answer the questions about it. Somebody, of course, circled back and asked him something later. But this was him talking about being back. This is at the start of him, his media availability. This is very Tank.
I look all right. All right, perfect.
Healthy again after what you went through?
Yeah, I give all the glory to God, for sure. It's been a blessing, nothing short of a blessing, just to be out there, just running around. I don't even have to get the ball, just running around and just running routes, just feeling love from my teammates. It feel great.
So that is him. And he said, just being back. And when I saw him, like the weekend before camp, he released some training work. He was working with his trainer and the speed guy or whatever, and he looked good. And then when I saw him on the field, he looked good. He looked, comfortable. He looked healthy. He looked fast. Stan Norfleet from over at Sports Radio 790 and I were on Sports Extra over the weekend, and he asked, how did they look at camp? Who stood out to you? And I said, well, I'll tell you, and I've said it here, a few people that I can tell you what I saw. I mean, I thought Kenyon Green looked fit. And I can't tell you yet really how he's looked in terms of, at left guard, because the offensive linemen were so far away, you couldn't really see them. But he looked like a football player. And I'm not being funny. That's important because that hasn't been the case in previous years. And so one of the things that D'Amico said, Coach Ryan said, is that, hey, he's healthy, he looks ready. And now we can see, what kind of football player he's going to be. So that was exciting. Damian Pierce, who, of course, as a rookie came in and was a starter last year, he struggled in this new system, but he came in this year and he looks like he's a little leaner. He looks ready. Coach Ryan has talked about how he got his degree in the offseason and just the man that he is and the things that he's worked on, right? So there's that. CJ Stroud looks really sharp. He looks on it and ready to continue and to build. We keep talking about the leadership. You heard, I'm going to let you hear from Tank, who talks about him as a leader, but he talked about stepping into the role even more as a leader. He was a leader last year, but now it's year 2. He came into this offseason being the clear-cut leader of this offense. Definitely the, QB1. There's no question about it. And it makes a difference. Here is Tank talking about CJ, his one of his best friends. They become really, really close friends. Talks about him as a leader.
He definitely stepped into that leadership role way more than he did last year. Like last year, don't get me wrong, he was a great leader, but now you can see it, like any miscues at practice, he's on us. Like he like, all right, bro, come on, like, but he's definitely stepped into the leadership role and he's ready for it. He know we got a target on our back now. Like last year was a prove it year, and we still haven't proved ourselves, don't get me wrong, but we know that like people is looking forward to watching the Texans play football this year. So he's not taking that lightly. Like he want to give the fans a show. So he's been on us like crazy. So it's been good though.
So I don't think any of us have ever really questioned CJ's leadership, but to know that he's continuing to build on it and work on it, right? He's had a busy offseason. He's young. I mean, he 22 years old? And as long as he is doing the things he needs to do, right, to take care of his body, take care of his mind, he's in his playbook. I think I believe that his commitment and dedication to being a champion, I mean, through all the conversations we got to have with him last year, he wants to be a champion. He wants to be not just one of the really good ones. He wants to be the best. And I believe he's the kind of person who's going to put that work in to do it. And that means managing all these things. Now, obviously, once training camp starts and the season starts, he won't be doing, all the busyness that people seem to be a little concerned with. He will handle his business. I don't have any reason to believe anything other than that. So listen, it's always football season. Although there's no football right now, the Texans are, we are exactly 1 month away from the start of training camp. That's crazy. July the 18th. And it's going to be hot. Woo, I remember last year it was hot, but it's going to be fun. It's cool to see. It'll be cool to see them build on what they did last year. And, we haven't talked a lot about this. I'll let you hear from players and I'll let you hear from some of the coaches too. But man, think about Bobby Slowick in year 2, how he will get into his bag of tricks as an offensive coordinator. And I say bag of tricks. I say that not like it's all trickery plays, but, into his bag with all the tools he has. They went out and they got Joe Mixon as a running back. They went out and got Stephon Diggs. They made some moves on defense, but offensively, he got 2 starters, right? And could be difference makers in the offense. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they continue to build and grow. I think that, their schedule is tough. They're playing the first place schedule. The target is on their back. They're not going to surprise anybody, right? No one's going to think, oh, who knew the Texans had this kind of talent? But there's a website called the 33rd Team, and they rank all different kinds of things about different teams, about the teams in the league. And so they rank the Houston Texans as having the 8th best offensive core. And that was one of the things we talked about on Sports Extra. The question was, is that number too high or too low? I thought it was too low. I don't know how you can say there are 7 teams who have a core offense better than the Houston Texans. I just don't believe that, right? I'm like, where are they? Okay, maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Ravens, maybe it's San Francisco or Detroit. They're not 7. So there's no way they should have been 8. I mean, you're going to tell me they're not top 5? Maybe even top 4, but those are people's jobs. Somebody's got to make all of these kind of predictions and rankings and things, right? So they were the 8th, they ranked the 8th, having the 8th best offensive core in the league. I thought they were wrong, right? Plus you got this guy named, CJ Stroud. who's going to be in year 2, the offensive rookie of the year, and who, remember, at one point was also, there were some murmurs about him as being an MVP candidate. Your team has to finish probably better, but also remember he got hurt with that concussion on that awful field when he was playing the Jets up in New York, which they will go back there again this season. And he was out, 3 weeks? But he clearly still was the offensive rookie of the year, hands down. The other guy I didn't mention is Will Anderson Jr., who's come back and who looks like he's ready to go. And so a lot of them do. Those are just some of the guys that stood out. Joe Mixon looks good. You think about Joe Mixon and his size, and they're like, whoa, they've beefed up that position at running back. So a lot happening, a lot to look at, and just stay tuned. That's all I can tell you. Listen, we are out of time for today. I want to remind you about our good friends over at I Love Jinka, Kim and LJ Williams. If you're not familiar with Jinka, go to their website. If you are and you want to know where to get it, you can buy it on their website at ilovejinka.com. You can also get it at HEB, and here's where you find it in the store.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at that Jinka sale. Look at that Jinka.
So what you see is it comes in the capsules, and it also comes in the paste. And so however you want to get it into your body. I've been working out again and, adding, weights back into my workout program. And so sometimes you have some aches and pains. I've been able to use Jinka and not have to take a leave, to help with soreness and inflammation, because Jinka really helps with all things inflammation. So I am using the capsules every day. In fact, I'm going to have to go replenish my stash because I'm almost out. But it definitely does a lot of really good things, depending on what it is you need, whether you have issues with blood pressure, high blood pressure, or maybe cholesterol, or there are people who've talked about just having more energy, pain, inflammation. The key is to be consistent and just to get started. So you can get it at ilovejinka.com, and you can get it at HEB. So finally, I want to say again, prayers and condolences to the family of Charles Lamar Drayton, a friend of the show, a friend of mine, and just an all-around really decent, good man. He was an attorney. He was our legal expert, but much more than that, he was a father and a husband and a community advocate, and just decent, and that sounds small, but it's a really big thing these days. I mean, decent it just encompasses so much. So just wanted to send prayers and condolences again to his family, and may he rest in power. And that is it for today. So thank you as always for being a part of Chalk Talk. Remember, if you are not registered to vote, get registered, right? We had an election that was last Saturday. It was the Harris County Appraisal District. There were 2 seats left open. The turnout was abysmal. And I get it. Maybe people have had voter fatigue. There have been several elections and runoffs this 2024. But we got to get over it. So get registered. Start paying attention to the policies and the people who say they want to be your leader, so that you'll be ready to vote your values. I'm going to start talking about this summer, Project 2025. I think it's important that we all understand what that is. It is the platform and agenda of the Republican Party. And I will tell you that Project 2025, and I don't tell you who to vote for, but that project and what I'm reading about what they plan to do is really, really scary. And I want to make sure that if you're listening to me, that you're aware of it, and then you make your decision. It may not be scary for you, but I want you to know about it. But until then, make sure that you get registered. Remember, do something kind for somebody else and do something kind for yourself. Make it a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday right here on Chalk Talk. Peace.